In the early stages of building a business, it's easy to continue motion with progress. You could spend weeks improving the website, adjusting branding, refining a deck, having meetings, and telling yourself that business is moving. Sometimes it is. A lot of times it's not. Welcome to the From Zero podcast. I'm Austin,
I'm John.
and we're building a company from scratch in a tough industry. We've raised $750,000 so far, and we've learned a lot of lessons along the way. This podcast is about entrepreneurship, risks, mistakes, growth, and what it really takes to build something from scratch. And today we have a primary topic. John, would you like to introduce us to our primary topic?
I would, but first, I can't wait as this podcast grows that number that we've raised goes up. It's gonna be pretty cool. Going back to like episode 3, 750.
Yeah,
Episode 37, 10 million.
Right, and you know, to give a little insight, right? Like maybe by episode 3, we're at a place that we either can or should maybe talk a little more about ourselves and what we're doing, right? We never did an intro episode, and I don't think most people care about us, but maybe at this point, if you've watched 2-hour-long episodes, you do care a little bit, right? So we have raised $750,000 to date to build the unmanned aerial system that we have developed. And we are currently in the process of raising Series A. So we'll keep you updated as time goes on. We expect that number to go up quickly and drastically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and hopefully in the future episodes, we can dive a little bit into our pedigree and great background from prestigious colleges.
yeah, we can definitely do that.
onto the podcast. So I think the first topic question is going to be, what early stage work feels productive, but it's mostly a waste of time?
All of it. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, so you obviously this is nothing new to probably me and you and 99% of every single person listening to this, but you know the 80-20 rule, right?
The 80-20 rule. I've heard it, and I've also seen it change to like the 90-10 rule.
Yeah, so there's the 70-30, the 80-20, the 90-10. You know, but it's all basically the same. Basically, what it's saying is that, you know, let's assume 90-10, right? 90% of your results come from 10% of the effort, right? And the other 90% of your effort garners very little to no results, right? And the theory behind it is that, you know, there's either 80% or 90%, depending on which theory you kind of live by, that you can eliminate most of what you're doing and not really negatively affect the results that you get. I mean, look at us. We're doing a podcast, right?
That's true. We are doing a podcast.
We could be grinding our wheels on lots of other things, right, that may or may not make a difference. But instead, we're doing a podcast because we think this is more productive than, doing something that's probably not going to make a difference in our business right now.
Yeah. And it's also a little bit more fun.
Oh, way more fun.
Got to have the right mental state. Don't burn yourself out, kids.
But, you know, I do think that theory is true. I mean, we've seen it. We've experienced it. You know, and it goes directly into this question of, you know, what are the things that feel productive but are mostly a waste of time? Do you have any off the top of your head?
Yeah, I do. I got a few. So the first one that at the beginning feels super productive, and I've had conversations with friends that they're trying to start their own business, and they focus so much on like tiny details that don't matter and nobody cares about. How good their flyer and a website looks, how good their logo is, everything like this. And I'm like, man, you don't like what you can't even explain to me what the business actually doing, presenting idea, like anything. But they're like, yeah, but check out this logo. And it's like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of see this on the daily, right? I mean, we're kind of at the place that there's several vendors that we pay or have paid and probably will pay again, um, fairly large sums of money to do things for us or to sell us specific products, right? And excuse me, and a lot of those companies have really shitty websites. I mean, if we're going to be honest, I mean, there's one right off the top of my head that I know that I can only look at it on my desktop computer, because if I go to my phone, all the images are like large and misshape and data is all over the place, and like you can't make heads or tails of any of it, but they do really good high quality work.
Yeah.
Now, would that be up to my standard? No. Like I'm gonna have at least a halfway decent looking website, and it's gonna look good on the majority of devices, But I've got a little OCD when it comes to that stuff, But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it depends on your industry, but they can get away with that.
Yeah, and then that's kind of the caveat, right? We're mostly the whole time we've been speaking on our experiences, which is building a physical product on a startup type environment. So it's very niche, and the customers that you're gathering, it's not like a high volume type of thing that you're cold calling people and, hey, do you want to buy a 14-foot wingspan drone? No. No, no, nobody's gonna answer that. It's not solar panels, right? So the majority of sales and contacts are coming through networks or contacts of contacts or people like that. So if what you're building is pretty niche and the majority of the revenue or leads or anything you're gonna get through that is gonna be like kind of either in person or through your network, that's when you can put a little bit less emphasis on the things such as the website and focus a lot more on the product. But if you're selling SaaS, right, that the first impression of anybody looking at your product is going to be your website, then that's probably where you want to prioritize.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this is extremely subjective, and it depends. Kind of stands right in front of every comment that you're going to make, right?
Yeah.
So, it's definitely very industry specific. It definitely depends on a lot of different factors. For us, it doesn't matter as much. And if you're digital based, then it probably matters more,
Probably matters a bit
right?
more. Yeah.
And even for us, right? So like, the vendors that we buy products from, we really don't care, right? We don't care what your website looks like. We just care if you answer the phone when we call. But we found most of those vendors through networks, or we've used their products before, right? Like we didn't find them through Google search and say, oh yeah, we're going to spend $30,000 on that thing.
Yeah,
Um,
which it will lead me to our first side rant, which is
the
if
first.
you have if you're selling a product, specifically a niche product on a website, and somebody finds you, have a way to actually contact the person. I'm getting so tired of all these people that are selling something very niche that we know for a fact you're not selling that many of them. There's like a couple of thousand people that might need it at a time, and the people that first of all, if they even answer the phone, like train your salespeople to answer the phone, dear God, please. And when they do answer the phone, they're completely clueless. They have zero follow up. So if there's one quick lesson when you're trying to sell something, is if you're gonna say you're gonna follow up and just answer. It has led to so many of the decisions that we've made on what vendor to partner with, just that they are responsive. So
Yeah.
much more than the actual product. It's a connector, for instance, a small connector. I don't care that this one weighs 0.02 ounces. more than the other one. If
Right.
the other one is going to answer the phone, give me the information that I need and sell it to me and quote it and, hold on to the word of what they're going to say on the follow-ups. And
Yeah,
is
I mean,
nobody does that. I don't know what's going on here.
yeah, I mean, I don't understand it either, right? But we are in the move fast and break things stage, right? So when we need to build something, we need to do something, we need to develop something, we need to integrate something, right? We're looking for a very specific thing, and we need it fairly quick, right? So if we call your business and you don't answer the phone, or nobody answers the phone, we are moving on to the next one, and we're going to keep calling people until somebody answers. And when somebody answers, we're placing an order and never responding to anything from the other companies again.
Yeah, it's a little insane how even those companies had that great looking website, and then there's no way to contact them except an email that they take 72 hours to respond. If somebody is reaching out to you, that is a free lead. That
Right.
is a good free lead. Nobody goes. Well, I used back in the car dealership kind of. If somebody's coming in, they're coming in to buy something, and they're taking time out of their day to inquire about your product. They're not responding to a cold call or an outreach or anything like that. You got a free lead. Don't let it die.
Yeah. I mean, continuing down this rant, right? I mean, in the past 12 hours, we've had two leads come in from our website, right? And both of them, unfortunately, were essentially salespeople trying to sell us something, right? Um, but we still responded to both of them, right? And we responded to both of them within hours of those inquiries coming through, right? No matter who it is, no matter what they're asking for, within reason. If somebody sends a submission through our website, we're responding, and we're responding quickly. Like, we're not going to be the company that's going to sit around and take 3, 4, 5 days to respond, because we know that every hour, every minute, and definitely every day that that you don't respond, the odds that that person buys from you goes down and down and down and down.
Yeah. And part of it has to do with obviously like we're the founders of this company, so we care. And probably old Billy, the sales guy at the electrical connector company, doesn't really care that much. That's his 9 to 5. So goes on to the next rant. Be very careful who you hire and make sure that they are not complete idiots. That they at least care a little bit about the success of your company.
Yeah, I mean, hire slow, fire fast,
Yeah.
right? That's the methodology behind any startup. Um, People will take advantage, vendors will take advantage, employees will take advantage. I mean, I've seen it, we've experienced it, and you will too.
Yeah.
So, hire slow, fire fast.
Back to the main topic
Back
after
to
our,
the main
our
topic.
slow derail.
Yeah, after a slow derail. So other things that feel productive but are mostly wastes of time. Is that a word? Wasteses? Did I say that wrong?
Yeah, that's not a word.
That's not a word.
Wasted.
Wasted. Yeah, we'll go with
Yeah.
that. um, I mean, there's a lot of places I think you can spend time that is ultimately a waste of time. We've had numerous conversations and meetings with vendors who say that they can resell our product and that kind of stuff, right? And we've wasted hours and hundreds of hours probably creating materials for them to take to show to their customers and all that kind of stuff. Right. And I think it's smart to kind of take those meetings, and I think it's smart to um entertain the opportunities, because you never know. You never know who's going to come through. And but after the third, fourth, fifth, sixth meeting, and these people are continuously asking for this and asking for that, and the requests continue to come, right? At some point, you have to draw the line and say, look, if I'm going to continue giving you information, if I'm going to continue taking my time to create things for you to market my product with, right? We need something. We need some kind of reassurances, right? There was one company, right? Like we kind of drew the line in the sand and we said, look, if we're going to continue down this path, we need a letter of intent, right? And it was non-binding, obviously, but like a letter of intent is something that we can use in different ways. And if they're serious, they shouldn't have any issues providing that.
Yeah.
And then we'll continue to entertain that for another, 3 months or so. But eventually we're going to say, hey, look, we're not going to continue down this path. If you ever need a quote, we're happy to provide that, right? We can leave the sales contracts and everything in place, but like we're not going to continue wasting time. And I think that's one of those things that, depending on your industry, that you can really get sucked into, that can take up a ton of time.
Yeah, the B2B side is pretty tricky because you have to know when you're selling and when you're being sold to. And that line can be, especially for an early founder, that can be a little tricky, which is kind of approach every single one of this interaction, especially if it's a B2B and not an end user, as in, what does this person want out of this interaction? If what they want out of the interaction is to sell you something, then there you go.
Yeah, I
Don't.
mean, a lot of people will go into something with the intent to sell you something. Sometimes it's less obvious, right? I mean, there are companies that I'm almost certain of that we have worked with that use our relationship for their own positive purposes, right? Like it's a meeting, it's an engagement, it's something that they can put together and now report to their investors and their interested parties that they now have this capability to resell this thing, right? And they may have no path to actually resell it. They're just using us to show progress through their own pipelines.
Yeah. They're trying to. We just talked about this earlier off camera. Just a lot of these sales related folks, they know that it's probably not going to be a sale there, but they're getting pushed from their leadership of, hey, generate leads, update the CRM tool, do this outreach, we need a B2B outreach. And it's just, you end up being a checkbox in their monthly statement of for them to keep their job. So just approach every single interaction with a little bit of caution. Guard your own time. Your time is very precious. So don't go into these connections with these folks that are just going to eat up your time and your resources that you think it's productive, but at the end of the day, nothing comes of it. You could have been exploring other avenues of approach.
Yep, there is, especially when it comes to people, there's absolutely nothing wrong with just saying, no, sorry, I don't have time, right? And I mean, we did that, what, Tuesday? I
Mhm.
mean, we were working on doing a remote demo. We have one of these people that have been kind of tire kicking for a while reach out and they're like, hey, can we do a quick call? We've kind of got something big in the pipeline and we have to have, some answers by tomorrow. And our response was, hey, sorry, we don't have time, right? We are in the middle of preparing for something else and we can get back with you, later in the week. There's nothing wrong with just saying, sorry, I don't have time. And if you do have time and you want to take it, that's up to you. But I would, it's better to set boundaries, I think,
Yeah,
early.
just guard your own time.
Yeah.
Guard it, and that I mean that's a pretty big one as far as like it might feel really really productive uh at the beginning. Just got to be quick on sniffing it out because it can turn to a huge time waster early on.
Yeah. And I guess another point, right, is if you can understand somebody's intent and what they're looking for, right, you can use that to kind of turn it around and at least use it to get something out of it yourself, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, if you are, raising money and you're trying to show traction and things like that, and you have a customer that is tire kicking, right? And they're trying to use you for, um, to show progress, right? Leverage that into a letter of intent. Leverage that into an introduction with somebody that they know. Leverage that into something, right? If they need something from you, don't just give it to them, right? Don't waste your time and give it to them. Leverage it into something else. They have something that you need. You just need to figure out what that is and then ask for it.
Yeah, and it can be hard to spot sometimes. That person trying to sell you something, they're not gonna come out and be like, "Hey, do you want to buy this?" They're gonna be first poke at what you have, be like, "Hey, that's really cool. I like your shirt. You want to buy a pen?" It's right. They'll try to
Well, yeah.
the first rule of sales, right? Try to become sell yourself, don't sell the product. So they're gonna first try and be friends with you, all this kind of stuff. Just
Oh yeah,
be
I mean,
careful out there.
even one of the online requests that we got in the past 24 hours, right? The first paragraph was, "Hey, the aircraft looks awesome, the tech looks high tech, the wiring harness is great, like all this stuff, just like praise, praise, praise." And then the next paragraph, it's, um, however, we we couldn't help but notice that we think we could do a better job with composite work or whatever, right? Like trying to now sell.
Yeah.
And that's an extreme example, but if it's not happening on the form of a website, right, those processes will be spread out over time, right? You may spend 2 weeks of getting that praise thinking somebody's interested in your product when the whole um, you know motive behind the scenes is to get you interested in their service.
Yeah, and it's hard to spot. Um, Another one that I think kind of goes along with the with on the product side is, and we mentioned this before, but simply overbuilding your product early on, it it can only not be a time waste that you think it's productive. It might actually be worse for the end product. We've fallen into that pit trap before, right? To where like, hey, uh, something semi software related, right? Hey, we can make it faster. I think we can change this and make it faster. And we start going down this rabbit hole, and we had a finished product that was good enough to kind of showcase. And all of a sudden, now we're down this rabbit hole 3 weeks into re-engineering this for a minimal gain that the end user's not even gonna know. Nobody's gonna be as critical of your things as you are, with a caveat, unless you're delusional, then
Right.
might not apply.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
usually, they're gonna be way more critical than the customer. So don't overbuild it.
yeah, don't overbuild, and I think that really comes into something that a lot of like first time founders, they this is something that they don't get for a long time, right? And you have to break, and that is that you have to break everything down into essentially versions and milestones, right? When it comes to your product, everything should have a version, and when it comes to your business, everything should have a milestone, right? If your milestone is to raise seed funding, right? Maybe that first milestone is minimum viable product, right? And that first minimum viable product is version 1, right? And when you get to version 1, that's a complete product, right? You can have an outline, you can have a essentially a product map, right? You can say version 1 is going to be this basic thing with these basic features. And then you can have version 2 outlined, right? That says in V2, we're going to add this, this, and this. And in version 3, we're going to add this, this, and this, and 4, and so on, right? But milestone 1 is where you stop at version 1, right? And that's the thing that you say, okay, well, now we're going to raise money. Now we're going to do this. This at milestone 1, version 1, this is the thing that we're going to do. And you don't start building version 2 until you hit the next milestone, right? Maybe milestone 2 is, raising $500,000.
Yeah.
And once you've hit that milestone, right, then you can say, okay, now it's okay to start building version 2, right? There's no right way to do it, there's no wrong way to do it. But if you set your business out in milestones and you set your product in versions and version, product maps, you're going to be set up much better for success, and you're going to avoid the overbuilding. And you'll also have a product that you're more familiar with. You'll be able to talk about it more intelligently with interested parties. And you can, it's pretty cool, right? Like you can show a product map of where it's going.
And I think a lot of the time could be, instead of trying to add another feature or improve this and that, it could be spent on just QAing your current version, what you have under different scenarios. Run
Oh, 100%.
run
Yeah.
yourself through a million demos and things that you haven't quite thought of. Bring in an outside person that maybe not be familiar with the product. That's why in a lot of companies that we worked with, whenever we brought in a new hire, the very first thing I did was, especially on these systems, it wasn't, hey, this is how we do things. I would just give them the checklist or whatever that we had and see what they naturally wanted to do first based on what we wrote. And that will kind of give you an outside perspective of your instructions, your setup, anything that has to do with your product. It could be something simple as, step one, turn the switch on, and the person goes up there. It's like, okay, and then they turn like the wrong switch on, one in the back that's like, no, like you don't touch that switch. That's like the reset switch. Well, you yourself would have never done that, but a person that's not familiar with your product would have. And now you just found a gaping issue in your product that your reset button actually looks like the power button.
Right.
Obviously, that's an extreme scenario, but we've seen very
I mean,
similar things.
I wouldn't say that's an extreme scenario though, right? Because that opens up questions for you, right? It's like, okay, do you need training before somebody touches that thing? Or do you need to label something, right? And if you label something, does it get labeled on the aircraft? Does it get labeled in the checklist? Do you need a picture, a diagram, right? Like you've identified a problem, and now how do you fix it? And I think this is more relevant than to just physical products, right? I mean, it could be the positioning of a button on a website, right? You could say, go sign in, right?
Yeah.
And maybe the top right hand corner to you seems like the obvious place for it, and then when a user who's not familiar with it, they go there, and maybe because the colors are semi close, or they're on a different size device, right? Maybe the button doesn't show up, or maybe it blends in too well, or right, there's a reason that they can't find the sign in button. And something as simple as just having somebody who's unfamiliar, take a look, solves a problem for you.
Yeah,
Right.
and nobody know the quickest way to turn somebody off to your product or your service is getting them frustrated or making them feel stupid. If somebody it feels stupid trying to use your product because they messed it up and it's not clear enough, they're probably not going to use it. And
Yep. And the first time you discover that it's not obvious where that button's at, or that a typical customer wouldn't be familiar with that process, the first time you discover that, you don't want it to be when an investor is looking at it.
yeah,
Right. So that goes back to the overbuilding, right? At some point, version 1, you stop building, right? Then you start demoing, you start testing, you get people on the outside to look at it, and you start finding issues and fixing. That way, when you hand it over to an investor, it's going to work.
and yeah, I mean, keep it simple. I think I had read an article that I think it was from our time spent up in the Great North in Canada, was that it was really hard to build bear-proof trash cans because the overlap between the smartest bear and the dumbest human was like really close, right? So you gotta what might seem simple to you as the person building it and creating it, it might not actually be simple. So spend that time that you would be trying to add new features. Spend that time simplifying the process. Spend that time QAing. Spend that time bringing other people, friends, families, acquaintances to take a look at it. Have them break it. Not physically break it, but have them break the process on how you think it should work because you don't want to find that out when you're trying to pitch to a VC.
Yeah, it's not the time,
It's
right?
not the
It's
time.
just not the time. And I think the big takeaway from this is everything that you're doing, you have to stop and ask yourself, if I don't do this thing, will it make any difference at all?
No.
Right? And if
Can a bear figure it out? That should be the right. That should be the. If a bear can do it, you can sell it. That should be the. We'll quote that somewhere.
Oh, yeah, I like it. So I think from there, we're at 33 minutes. Let's move on to the second question.
Oh wow. Okay.
We'll see if we can get through it and maybe get to our bonus question. This one may not take as much time, just because I think it's a little more clear cut. But how do you know if you have real traction or just activity?
Money.
I, I mean, yeah, it's pretty simple, right?
Money. If uh, a sale is not a sale until a wire or money exchanges hands with anything. Anybody that's worked in anything sales related knows that a sale can fall through at the last signature. So until then, it's a lead. Until then, it's a prospect.
Yeah,
So
and I mean, I think it goes back to it depends, right? There's a lot of different there's a lot of different factors and a lot of different industries that you'd have to cover. Um, I think there are some things that could be identified as traction, right? That maybe wouldn't be a sell, right? In our industry, we see that some sales take, some they're very long burn times, right? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
you could be looking at 8 to 12 months from interest till actual, quote request. So in that scenario, how do you differentiate traction versus just activity?
If the easiest way would be to look back if and it doesn't have to be your product. If you worked in a similar field selling something similar before, take a look at how the process went to end up at a sale. Step one, step two, step three. If at any point those steps are not quite lining up how your gut's telling you or how you've seen it done in the past, it's probably at least an amber flag of take a step back and be like, hey, is this person just kind of bullshitting me? Or are they actually trying to get to an end goal here?
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and I think in the B2B world, right? Like you have to pretty much continuously be pushing, right? Somebody makes interest, right? You ask for something in return, right? You ask for a letter of intent, right? If they give you a letter of intent that is, non-binding, that I think that shows some real traction, that right, because their ability or their willingness to give that to you shows at least some real intent in the buying process. And maybe it's yeah, I'm not really sure what else you could go into from there.
I mean, one that I would kind of just kind of comes off the top of my head on real traction versus just basic activity is the kind of questions that that person is asking about the product and the use case of what they want your product to be. If they're diving down into pretty technical questions, pretty specific scenarios on how would it work under these conditions, how would it work under that. Now you can kind of sniff that out versus somebody that's coming in. Like we've had, I mean, even on LinkedIn and managed sales, like, hey, can I get a quote for 1,000 of them? It's like,
Right.
Bobby, no, you're trying to. All you're doing, that person can be spotted from 10 miles away. All they're trying to do is put a bullshit proposal together for some kind of entity, and they're just swooping around to try and get numbers. That's probably not real traction. But if somebody's coming at you and saying, "Hey, how would this work for pipelines?" Like I work for this company. There's a 2,000-mile long pipeline that is currently being flown by helicopters twice a month. How
Yeah.
would how
So,
would it work?
so you're saying that activity could be justified as real traction based on if the user has a real intent of the use of the technology.
Exactly, like a real usable intent that you yourself can see that being applicable, and also don't. It's kind of hard at the beginning, especially on a startup. You're gonna want to say yes to everything because you have the chance to that it can lead to a sale. But if you truly deep down don't believe that your product is like the right fit for it, you're fluffing yourself up. It's gonna get to the point that if you know it can't perform under those scenarios and it's not built for that, you're just wasting time.
Yeah, that's an extremely fair statement.
Be honest with yourself, be honest with your product, be honest with the limitations of it. And the- especially on a niche industry, you don't want to burn any bridges unless they absolutely need to be burnt, and then scorch them. But if you don't need to burn bridges, don't lie and lead somebody on and give them a whole bunch of bullshit that they're talking back and forth, because now they at the end of the day they're gonna be like, okay, no, yeah, I talked to these guys for like 3 months. Turns out their system can't do half of what we need. And the whole time I spent talking to these guys, I could have been talking to somebody else. And now, anytime they hear your name or your company name mentioned by anybody, they'll be like, no, no, those guys are idiots. Just
Yeah,
so
especially in small industries, those the reputation follows in a lot of cases. What about something more broad, like let's say an online kind of SaaS product? What could you look at there as more traction than just activity? Because in a lot of those circumstances, right, there's probably two different kinds, right? One would be a more B2B SaaS product, which probably everything that we're talking about now would hold true to or hold true for, right? But those SaaS products that are maybe more for uh, the general individual user, maybe you offer a free trial, but but you never actually talk to the customers, um, at least not on the phone or in person. Well, how do you define traction?
I can use a good example here on, and this was based off company I worked for a little while ago, and it was exactly how you described it. It was a B2B SaaS product that the company that I worked for had purchased, and then it was being used to resell to the end user, to the customer. And we did exactly that. It tied it, especially SaaS. We tied it into a free trial with another product they purchased, with the intention that essentially the main product that it came for, you had to have some kind of software behind it. The main product that it came for, that the ones that we had no margins on, it was like $100, right? So instead of us making $10 off that, we would give them the free trial of the other product. That it was still $100 after they would would buy it, but the company ended up making, $50 on the dollar instead of $10 on the dollar. So it was a much better margin. And just follow through and consistently, like, especially software, like I mentioned earlier, if people get frustrated with it right away, they're not going to use it. So the very first thing, it was a relatively high ticket hardware item attached to this product. So the very first thing I did was have, as soon as it was sold, have a meeting with them, show them the whole thing, record the meeting, and send it to them after. So if they don't remember everything, is kind of go through the basics of it and be responsive. Let them know that, hey, at any point, this is my cell phone number. At any point, if you run into an issue, just take a screenshot of it, take a picture of the screen with your phone, send it to me. I can walk you through how to fix it. I want you to use this software to meet your goals. The sale doesn't end when the delivery happens. It kind of needs to keep going, because now when they go to now, instead of buying the personal license afterwards for $100, they would end up loving the software and buy the enterprise license that was $2,000, right? That
Right.
so
Yeah, and then what about SaaS products that are for individual users, to where it's something that John would go and sign up for as an individual, right? You would use it to go through your free trial, but you're never actually talking to anybody. You're not communicating. Should the person who owns that product reach out to people that don't sign up, that cancel during the trial? Um, is people going into an active paid version an indication of traction, or is it just people that forgot to cancel? So like in those, you've got metrics, right? You've got how many people visit your site a day, how often or how long they stay on the site, what they're using it for. And then you've obviously got the metrics of the dollars, right? Who's going from trial to active user. Where does traction versus activity change in that environment? Um, Especially when you're in a industry to where people could just forget to cancel trials. I do that all the
yeah, all
time.
the
I
time.
sign
Yeah.
up for a product, I never use it, and then just forget to cancel, and then I'm like, shit.
Yeah,
Um,
it's hard because the majority of my experience has been on the enterprise side for those type of SaaS, and when it comes to user ones, it is a lot harder. You can't, because you're obviously making a lot less per license, but you're hitting such a broader net that it's not really possible for you to I mean, you can sure set up automated emails like, "Hey, we're sorry to let you go," and those tend to, at least on my end, piss me off more than anything, or making the cancellation process a pain in the ass. For me, when it comes to those, I think that the biggest thing you can do is really uh, just focus on the metrics side of it and optimization side of it. You kind of taking the human aspect, it a little bit out of it compared to the enterprise ones. Um, it's a lot harder,
so
right?
so I agree. Probably the only thing I don't agree with. And I think this goes back to setting milestones, right? Locking versions in, right? Minimum viable product, right? I think at that stage, right, when you have a customer that signs up but then doesn't use it, or a customer that signs up and cancels right before the trial, right before the trial ends, right? Maybe that is the time period that we should act more like that B2B SaaS, right? And actually pick up the phone and call that person, right? I understand that, like, in this individual world, like, it's lower dollars, and long term, you're probably not going to be picking up that phone to call every single person that cancels, right? But how much could you learn about your own product during that period of time if you just pick up the phone and say, hey, why didn't you use it, right? Is there something you didn't understand? Is there something that, like, did it not help you? Is Did you run into an error, right? Is it too expensive, right? Like, and probably 90% of those people won't talk to you, but the ones that will might teach you something about your own product that solves a huge issue that you don't even know you have.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair if you have the time, especially early on. Yeah, you should be. It's a lot. What is it's much cheaper to retain a customer than it is to get a new one. So if there's even a small chance that that customer would return, or even if they don't, but they give you some quality feedback on just, hey, I actually didn't like it. I tried using it, but the layout was too confusing. Then that's golden feedback for you to kind of take back and think about simplifying it.
Yeah, and I think things like that, right, are true across every industry, across every type of product, right? I mean, I think just caring enough to ask the questions in the early stages.
Have
I
some
think it
customer service.
right, yeah. I mean, and I mean, as well as I do, customer service is almost a thing of the past anymore. I
Yeah.
would be shocked if somebody from a product that I used actually picked up the phone and called me for the specific purpose of trying to understand why I don't like their product. Not trying to upsell me, not trying to keep me as a customer, just trying to understand. I would be shocked. I don't know the last time that has ever happened.
I don't no, I don't think that's only happened to me, like I said, in the enterprise world with account managers on the bigger SaaS companies, or even the small ones. Obviously, each contract is there's a lot less of them, and they're much more valuable. So that's obviously a thing that's very common in the enterprise world, but in just as an individual level on the consumer side, no. Could you imagine? So calling, hey, this is Netflix. Like, why? Why did you not like the new show? What's the last season didn't like it? Okay.
Well, I mean, I think Netflix is well beyond that, but
Yeah.
I understand the meaning there.
Yeah. I mean, I know we're a little bit over time. It's just I'm trying to focus. All my experience has been on the and most of yours too has been on the business side and the kind of B2B side. There's probably a lot of people there that know a lot more about the consumer side, and it's just such a completely different beast that is something that we're every day we're trying to learn more about.
Yeah, I mean, I did have the computer repair shop
Yeah,
for
that's
a
good.
while, right? So that was more consumer based, and learned a lot of the kind of issues that you run into at that level there. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just way too much to get into right now. But maybe we can do an episode on consumer stuff at some point.
I will sit back with a sign and my huge amount of expertise on it. But that wraps it up for episode 3, I think.
Episode 2.5, episode
Episode
three.
2.5 slash
Yeah, we'll
3.
just call it three.
3. Episode 3. That's a wrap.